Did you know that 99.9% of US businesses are considered small businesses? That's a lot of young bosses out there hustling, growing, scaling, and chasing the dream. But here's a question. Is it okay to not scale, to keep your business intentionally small? Spoiler alert, the answer is absolutely yes. This week, we're talking about the other side of growth, the path that doesn't involve scaling to the moon and hiring a massive team or working towards an IPO. We're diving into the pros and cons of staying small, how to do it successfully, and how to protect your vision if you choose this route. If you've ever wondered, can I just keep things simple and still be successful? This one's for you. Let's dive in. You're smart, you're motivated, you want to do something big. You're on the verge of being a young boss, and we're going to help you get there. I'm your host, Isabelle Guarino, and welcome to the Young Boss Podcast, where youth is your power. There's this idea that growth is the ultimate goal for every business owner, but let's challenge that for a second. Growth isn't always the answer, and keeping your business small isn't a failure. It's a choice. And oftentimes, this is a lifestyle choice. Sure, the bigger you get, the bigger the budgets and the projects and the clients get, but at the same time, so does your obligation to the business, to your employees, and to your clients. Now, if you look at studies on the income threshold for increased happiness, it was long agreed by many that happiness doesn't increase after you hit $75,000. However, we all know that $75,000 is good, decent money, but with inflation and depending on your geographical location, you might not feel that increased level of happiness. Another study suggests that happiness increases up until you hit the $500,000 per year mark, which puts you in the top 2% of earners in America. There's got to be a happy medium, and that is something that you will decide, but money certainly doesn't buy happiness, although it does make things a little less stressful at times. Scaling your business impacts more than just your wallet and your happiness, and sometimes those two are inversely correlated. So let's break it down. Let's talk about the pros of scaling. First, more opportunities. You can reach more clients, take on bigger projects, and make a larger impact. Next, more money. Scaling often means higher revenue potentials and the ability to build wealth over time. But you know what they say, more money, more problems, and most will tell you that is absolutely the case. Third, sellability. A scalable business is easier to sell because it doesn't rely on you as the sole operator. If you're one of those solopreneurs or entrepreneurs where you're the product, you're likely going to have a tough time scaling because, as we'll learn, your time is limited. And finally, freedom. Once you grow big enough, you can move into the owner's box and leave the daily grind behind. Sounds great, right? But let's talk about the flip side, the cons of scaling. Well, first is responsibility. Managing a large team is not for everyone. People rely on you for their livelihoods, and that pressure can be overwhelming. You may be getting less sleep. You definitely have less free brain space because you're worried about them and their lives. And as you're working with more and more people, you're going to learn more about them. For example, if they're going through a divorce, if they got in a car accident, you're now stressed about them, their lives, what happens. Where if you didn't have employees or very few, it's less stress. You're worried about lack of success in every single department and everything falls on you versus only worrying about yourself where it all falls on you, but in a different way. You're responsible for it all. Next is expenses. With more people and resources comes higher costs, payroll, benefits, office space, tools, and even software. These days, I will tell you, people ask for very high salaries after they have some experience, and especially in the small business world, because they know that their job description that they come in with will probably not be the job description that they actually do. So many times they ask for a lot because they're going to be doing a lot. And this makes sense, but that can be scary because it's a huge load of new expenses that you can't always quantify if they're going to bring in those results right away. You've got to take that risk with your hires that you're making. Also, to scale, you might want to invest in different parts of the business, bringing on outside sales team or buying into a software program or CRM. And these could be expensive decisions that can add a lot of stress, which brings me to the third con: stress. Scaling means constantly pushing for the next level. And if your heart isn't in it, the grind can take a toll. Hey everyone, I want to share something that has truly changed my charging game. It's the 360 electrical. When I got this cord, oh my goodness, you guys, I'm always in need of a quick charge, whether I'm on the go in the car or at the airport. I want to be able to plug it in and 15 minutes later be on full battery, and that's exactly what this has done for me. It delivers 240 watts of ultra fast charging, so you're back to full battery in no time. It is perfect for those last-minute travel emergencies. It's got a super long cord and it doesn't fray. It keeps everything nice and tidy, super easy to travel with, take with you on the road. So if you want to grab yours today, head to 360electrical.com and use promo code YoungBoss for 20% off your order. Now, back to the show. Elena from Gervais Mortgage, who came on the podcast before, said it best. We don't want employees, we want to stay small. For them, staying small meant less stress, more control, and doing what they love. And guess what? That is perfectly valid. It's not about what society says you should do. It's about knowing what works for you. And figuring that out is a whole other journey in and of itself. If staying small sounds appealing, you might be wondering, well, how do I actually make that happen? So let's get into the strategies. Step one, you've got to narrow your focus. When you decide to stay small, you can't afford to work with everyone. You need to get laser focused on your ideal client, your customer, your avatar. I think about Brandon, my partner, his barber. Okay. He loves cutting hair, but he found himself overwhelmed with too many clients. So instead of hiring more barbers or taking on more clients, he raised his prices. He told his clients, hey, thank you for believing in me and for coming and using my services, but I need to be really intentional with my time. My cuts are now $65 instead of $35. Sounds drastic. But he wanted it to be drastic. If he would have only increased $5 or $10, probably everybody would have stayed. He needed to do something to cut the wrong avatar, the wrong client out of the business. He lost 40% of his clientele, but he makes the same amount of money. Why? Because each hour he's working is now more valuable. He's now able to work less hours, have less stress, and he didn't have to hire anyone. The lesson? Say no to clients who don't align with your ideal customer profile. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. Step two, accept your limits. Time is your most valuable resource, and especially when you're running a business that relies on you, time is going to be like the biggest stressor. Let's take Justin, a personal trainer that we had on the show. He specializes in one-on-one personal training sessions, and he loves that personal connection with his clients. But there are only so many hours in the day. Sure, he could switch to group or online training, but that's not what he's passionate about. So he also raised his rates. But there is a ceiling. At some point, a client's going to say, hey, I'm not going to pay $300 for a haircut. I'm not going to pay $600 for a training session when they can find another barber or trainer for cheaper. You can only raise it so much. If your business relies heavily on your time, you'll always have a cap. But raising your prices strategically can help you maximize your income without burning out. I think when you're making this stance and raising your prices to see what the ceiling is, it's important that you share how thankful you are for your clients' businesses and really be honest and send them that note of appreciation, but also share how you're dealing with being a small business owner. Maybe you are overwhelmed, maybe you are stressed, whatever the case is, share that as well. I think when you give them a notice that recognizes them and shares your heart or situation, it goes a long way. Not everyone has a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, and that's okay. The key to success is knowing yourself. If you love the work you do and you don't want to transition into that owner's box, you want to still work in the business, that is perfectly fine. Build your business around what makes you happy and incrementally scale your pricing so that you feel fairly compensated for your time and that you still enjoy it. Because everyone kind of starts to hate something if they feel like they're not getting paid enough to do it. For example, if you're a photographer who thrives on creating art for a handful of clients each month, don't feel pressured to open a massive studio with employees and high volume shoots. Focus on what brings you joy. When you're the business, it's easy to become overwhelmed, to feel like you're constantly over-delivering, over-servicing clients. Listen, it's up to you to communicate clearly to your clientele while also being honest with yourself about where you are and where you want to be. Staying small doesn't mean neglecting yourself or remaining price stagnant. It's all about reducing your liabilities and obligations to anybody but yourself. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Is staying small lame? Does it mean that you're not as ambitious as the next young boss? Absolutely not. The beautiful thing about owning a business is that you get to build it how you want. If staying small makes you happy, then lean into that. But here are a few things you want to keep in mind. Of course, watch for burnout. When your business is built around you, it's easy to overwork yourself. Be honest about your capacity and make sure you're not running yourself into the ground. Contract help when you need it. And the great thing about our current economy is that there's a plethora of gig workers, freelancers, contract workers, businesses as services. Staying small does not mean not having an accountant or not hiring somebody on retainer to do your social media. Staying small means protecting your mentals and your lifestyle. Don't forget, you'll have to accept the ceiling. Make sure that this fits your goals. You can't have Tesla-sized goals if you plan to stay small. If you are staying small, your income might cap at a certain point. And that's okay, as long as you've built your business to support your lifestyle. Just know the numbers. Incrementally scale where it makes sense, but don't get ahead of your skis. The last thing you want to do is push away clients. Last but not least, make sure that you love what you do. If you're keeping your business small, you really need to love the work, because when it's just you, the day-to-day grind can get intense. Make sure you're passionate about what you're committing to. And that's the rule of thumb for most entrepreneurs. You could do anything with your time, money, and talent, so be sure you're investing in what feeds your souls. Otherwise, you'll be fed to the soulless. The key is to build your business with the end in mind. However you want your business to look in 5 years, start building it that way today. Let's bring this home with some stats and real life stories. According to a 2022 report by SCORE, 40% of small business owners say that they feel more fulfilled and in control when they choose not to scale. And yet many entrepreneurs feel societal pressure to grow. Remember Patty from Lasgidi Cafe? She made a conscious decision to stay small, focusing on her local community instead of expanding to multiple locations. For her, success isn't about the size of her business, it's about the impact she can have on her customers. It's a reminder that success is personal. There's no one-size-fits-all definition. So here's the takeaway. Growth isn't the only way to define success. Whether you want to scale your business or keep it small, the most important thing is aligning your business vision with your personal vision. If staying small means you're happier, more fulfilled, and more in love with what you do, then that's the right choice for you. And if you ever doubt your path, remember this: your business, your rules. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Young Boss with your host, Isabelle Guarino. Be sure to like, share, and follow on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe on Spotify and YouTube for new episodes. And always remember, youth is your power.